Hey everyone, Barrett here with Spec of Tech. Welcome to the channel. Today we're talking about a very special tower speaker, a speaker that demands your attention not only with its size and aesthetic, but also with its magical sound. And that speaker is this beauty right behind me here, the Legacy Aeris. This is a serious 2-channel speaker, or what some might call an audiophile speaker, so I'm going to give it a serious 2-channel review, but I'm a home theater guy at heart, so I'm also going to let you know what I think about them for home theater as well. Spoiler alert, these speakers blew me away, as they should with their $25,000 price tag in the premium rosewood finish, which is what we have here. I did cover a lot of their specs in the previous overview video that I did, so if you would like to know about their specs, I'll link that video in the top right hand corner of this video. I do plan on making another video that will include demos along with some commentary from myself to show the capabilities of these speakers, but in this video it will strictly be about my impressions of their sound, and to help keep it shorter there will be no demos in this video. But let's kick things off and discuss how the Aeris performed for 2-channel listening. The setup that I was using is the Eversolo A6 streamer, feeding the Eversolo Z8 DAC, which is then fed to the Legacy Wave Launch processor, which we will discuss a little bit later on in the video, but I did use the processor to balance the top section of the speaker with the low end. Among many other features, the Wave Launch also gives you the ability to fine-tune the center image using the level adjustments in the processor, so if your 2-channel audio equipment doesn't give you that function, the Wave Launch allows you to do that, so for 2-channel purists out there, you should keep this in mind. Because these are a hybrid powered speaker, powering the highs and the mids of the Aries was the Legacy Audio IV3 Class D amplifier, and powering the low end is the built-in ice power modules pumping 1500 watts of power into each of the speakers. I have quite a few hours of listening to music with these speakers, and here's what I noted while listening to a variety of songs, the first of which was Mr. Big, a song called Free. And what I noted was that the kick drum is very solid, it hits very hard and clean with a weighty authority, the speakers completely disappeared, and the soundstage and imaging was absolutely fantastic with this song. Each piece of the drum kit can be located across the horizontal soundstage in its own space, and each instrument can also be located, and vocals were absolutely dead center. And lastly, I noted that it was very clean and very precise with this song. The next song that I listened to for this review was Metallica's Nothing Else Matters, and I noted that the cymbals were exceptionally clean and clear with great dynamics. I also noted that the kick drum is very heavy and full, and it has a live weight to it. In essence, basically, it's kind of like you're there at the concert live and you're right close to the drum kit, where you kind of get that feel in your chest a little bit with that live sort of weight, and that's what I was noting here with the kick drum in Metallica's song. You're going to start to see a theme here, but I did kind of mention the soundstage in most of these songs because the soundstage is something that's truly exceptional about these speakers, but I noted here that it was very precise and very open. It had an open sound to it. It kind of filled the room, almost made you feel like you were kind of there at the concert. The next song that I listened to for this review specifically was Eagles Hotel California. The first thing that I noted with emphasis is that the guitars are so clean. It's just something to really behold with these speakers. Every sound that you hear, mid-range, top end, and low end, is just so clean and precise. But here I noted specifically that the guitars just sounded so engaging and so clean and so clear. And again, going with the theme of soundstage, in this song I noted that it was absolutely out of this world, and I specifically noted that the clapping in the beginning of the song after a little bit of a guitar solo, it was coming from directly above me but a little bit to the left and slightly behind me. With a 2-channel system and you're hearing sounds coming from above you, behind you, it almost gives you the feel of having a surround sound system with just the 2 speakers, and it's truly something to behold. I also noted that it was somewhat magical, given the fact that it had this 3D soundstage. I had sounds coming from all sides of me during the song and from above, like I mentioned with the clapping. And then again, I noted that the clapping and cheering at the end of the song almost makes you feel like you're there. It just kind of came from all around you. It just wrapped around the whole room, and it felt like you were in the midst of the crowd with all the cheering, because the cheering sounded like it was all around you. So the soundstage for this song was truly exceptional. And then I also noted again that the kick drum was very weighty, it was very clean. It was very similar to what I heard in the Metallica song as well. I also noted that it was very balanced. You can tell that there's no bass bump with these speakers. They are going for a neutral sound, and I pointed that out during this song, that it wasn't overbearing. Hotel California can be one of those songs that helps you determine whether or not the speaker has a bump in the bass department, or at least in the low end, simply because that kick drum can either be a little bit overbearing and a little bit boomy, or it can be balanced with the rest of the song. And in this case, it was balanced with the rest of the song. And then I wanted to listen to a little bit of hip hop because I know there's guys out there that are going to listen to bass heavy music. So I wanted to test these speakers out and give you my impressions with something that's bass heavy. And Kill Shot is one of those songs that is truly bass heavy. It has a bit of a chest thumpy style bass in it, but it also has some low end that shakes your room. I don't know if it goes below 20 hertz or not, but it's definitely pretty low, at least approaching that 20 hertz mark. So what I noted here specifically with the bass in Kill Shot is that it's probably the best bass that I've ever heard from a speaker without a subwoofer. So I noted that it has a solid hit in the chest, like that thumpy bass that I was just mentioning with Kill Shot. It manages to accomplish that very clean and very precise, but it also accomplishes that low end that I was mentioning with this song with some room shaking bass. And I do mean that literally. It was shaking my room. There was items in my room that were shaking and vibrating, similar to as if I had a subwoofer with this song. Furthermore, with the bass, I noted that it was so clean on these speakers, it's almost weird to hear a speaker perform so well with bass and yet be so incredibly clean. Now, of course, everything else sounded fantastic with this song as well. The highs were crisp, the mids were great, but the reason I played this song specifically was for the bass, so that's kind of all I highlighted about this song, is just how fantastic the bass was. Then I moved on to another song that I typically will test subwoofers with, simply because, again, it has that nice hard-hitting thump style bass. It does have a few low notes as well, but I specifically choose it to see how a subwoofer, or in this case speakers, can handle that chest thumpy, hard-hitting bass, and it's Billie Eilish's NDA. And what I noted here is that the bass hits so clean and so hard. You feel that chest thump in your chest. You even feel it in your chair. There is a tactile response with these speakers. It is truly like you have a subwoofer playing, and that is actually something that I marked specifically for this song, is that you would swear there is a subwoofer playing along with the speakers, even though there was not. And lastly, I noted that the bass was just exceptional, and again, the best that I've ever heard for this song. I also noted that the vocals are very clean, rich, and dead center. The song is just remarkably clear and precise. Every note, every sound, and every verse sung has its own space within the soundstage and the imaging, and it's just so clean and separate from everything else going on in the song. Again, it's just something that these speakers do really well. So basically what I'm highlighting here is the soundstage was exceptional, and it just kind of goes along with every song. So one song that I actually like to listen to specifically for its imaging and sound staging is Madonna's Vogue. And the first thing that I noted for this song, again, and I repeated it, is soundstage, soundstage, soundstage. The part where she says, "What are you looking at?" in the beginning of the song, it just pans so seamlessly from the far left of the room to the far right of the room. Again, it's just some of the best that I've ever heard from a speaker as far as sound staging goes. And then again, close to the beginning of the song, I believe it's about 30 seconds in, there's a finger snapping sound that they use in this song. And it's like it's coming from almost right above me on the left-hand side again, basically emanating from the ceiling, which I've heard before, but not nearly as good from with these speakers. I've kind of heard it in front of me from the left ceiling, but this brought it even more 3D, like even more of a 3D soundstage front to back, and had it right above me emanating from the ceiling. And then along with that finger snapping, there's also a drum in the beginning of the song, and it sounds like it's coming from the right wall. Again, I've heard this before coming from the right-hand side, but more forward. This brought it a lot further back and just gave you a much more 3D soundstage from front to back, more depth to it, is basically what I noted here. And then in the part of the song where she says strike a pose, it sounds like it's coming from above my head, but from the right-hand side and kind of high up on the right-hand wall. So below that, I wrote that the soundstage is the best 3D soundstage that I've heard from any speaker in my room. I also noted that the bass was quite thick and room-filling from this song in particular. I just had a very clean, very full bass presentation from the song. Again, some of the best that I've ever heard, or probably the best that I've ever heard any speaker do it. I find that the treble in Madonna's Vogue song is naturally a little bit hot, or turned up a little bit within the track itself, and these speakers will show you true to source. So these ribbon tweeters that Legacy is using in these speakers are very accurate, very precise, and very, very capable. So if you do have a track that has what you'd call boosted treble, or a very hot treble signal, or a bad recording, these speakers are going to show you that, and that's what I pointed out about this song, is that the treble is a little bit hot. These speakers are going to show you that. I didn't find it fatiguing. I did listen to this track several times just to kind of get my head really wrapped around what these speakers were presenting for this song. And I didn't find that my ears were fatigued at all. Obviously, if you crank a speaker up to excessively loud levels, almost any speaker is going to give you ear fatigue. But at normal listening levels, I didn't find these speakers to fatigue my ears, even with a song like this that does have a bit of a hotter treble signal. But with that said, I do want to point out that the software within the Wave Launch processor is fully capable of trimming the treble if that's what you want. You can pretty much tune these speakers to whatever sound you want, but we're going to get into that in a little bit. First, I want to talk about the last song that I listened to, and that's Teddy Swim's Lose Control. And what I noted here is that this song really allows the Aeris to shine with vocals, and they really don't disappoint. They're just so accurate and clean. With a song like this that's really centered around the vocals, it just draws you in, it sucks you into the song, because they're just providing you something that not a lot of speakers out there are going to provide for you. I've had a lot of other speakers in my room, and yes, I've loved a lot of other speakers that have been in my room. I did love the Paradigm Founder 120Hs. They did kind of draw me into the song as well. So I'm not trying to say that these are the only speakers that are going to be able to do this, but they do it in a way that I've never really heard from any other speaker. They're just so capable and so precise and clean. You just find yourself listening so intently to the music because you're going to hear things in the music that you've truly never heard before, even from some pretty high-end speakers. So if these speakers don't give you goosebumps with vocals, then they aren't set up right, because they are perfectly dynamic and clean with each and every verse you hear. That concludes my breakdown on the listening sessions, but let's break these speakers down for their highs, mid-range, bass, and their soundstage. And let's start off with the treble. So the treble is produced using a 1-inch ribbon super tweeter and a 4-inch ribbon mid tweeter, and it's about as crisp and clean as you're ever going to get it. The ribbon tweeters that Legacy use truly are magical in my opinion. They can just produce these airy highs like nothing else that I've heard in my room before, and I truly believe that you're never really going to hear treble quite like this. They just do something a little bit different that's hard to put your finger on, but it's definitely different than the tweeters that I've heard in the past. It's just incredibly crisp, incredibly clean, so detailed. You hear every little tick, every little pin drop. With that said though, they aren't very forgiving. If you're expecting the treble to be smoothed out somewhat like a soft dome tweeter, that's not what you're going to get here. What you do get is incredible accuracy and capabilities that you most likely aren't going to be able to find elsewhere. So they're just going to produce the treble as it was recorded. So if it is a little bit harsh, well, that's what you're going to hear, is a little bit of harshness. But as I already stated, you can tune that if you wish using the Wave Launch processor. Or you could use something like a nice Class A amplifier like the TONEWINNER 81 PA that I used, and it does smooth out the treble just a little bit, and I believe these speakers pair very well with a Class D amplifier like the Legacy IV3 that I was using. But for those of you that want a little more laid back sound, a smooth Class A amp can help you get that, and you're still going to retain that exceptional high-end clarity and detail, but with the edges smoothed out ever so slightly. But we can't speak about clarity and detail without talking about the mid-range also. It's every bit as detailed and clean as the top end. The mid-range is produced by an 8-inch titanium encrusted mid-range driver along with a 10-inch mid-woofer, and I believe because it is open baffle, it really does open up the soundstage of the mid-range to almost unbelievable levels, and that's kind of why I was pointing that out with each song. The soundstage is just fantastic, and I believe part of that can be attributed to the open baffle. Vocals are almost magical in how they can accurately replicate every breath in and out, every nuance of their vocal tone. These speakers really excel in their clarity and detail retrieval, so get ready to be in awe of the best mid-range reproductions that you're likely ever to hear if you do decide to go listen to these speakers. No, these speakers aren't inexpensive, but the quality of the drivers used is apparent with how transparent and clean everything sounds. Every note, every sound, and every word sung is precisely where it should be and completely separated from all the other sounds within the song. And that separation really contributes to the magical soundstage that I've been mentioning over and over here. It truly is almost unreal how these two speakers can sound like a surround sound setup. To sum up the mid-range, it is the cleanest, most transparent and open mid-range that I've ever heard in my space, and it truly did blow me away. Surprisingly clean and transparent are also perfect words to describe the bass section. As I've already mentioned, the bass section is powered by 1500 watts of internal amplification, which is powering two aluminum cone 12-inch woofers. But don't let that big number fool you into thinking that the bass is overwhelming or unbalanced. It's actually the contrary. The bass is incredibly accurate and balanced, but the great thing about the Wave Launch processor is that it makes it easy for you to adjust the low end to your preference. For my testing, I balanced it to be neutral with the mids and the top end, but if you want to turn it up and have room shaking bass, make no mistakes, the bass is clean, yes, but it can and will shake your room to the point that you think there are subwoofers being used. Songs like Make Us Stronger by Ghost Rider can give you clean bass that really smacks you right in the chest and hits so hard that it's truly surprising that a speaker is producing it. And just for fun, I played a 20 hertz bass test song from Tidal, which just brought a smile to my face. These speakers can shake my room just like some of the subwoofers that I've had in here for testing, but they do so with a clarity and accuracy that very few subwoofers can offer. I've had the Paradigm Founder 120H hybrid speakers in my room before that have 1000 watts of internal amplification, powering 3 8-inch woofers, and I was very impressed by them, but the Aeris is a whole new level of clean, powerful bass. Granted, they should be considering the price difference between those speakers, but I wanted to point out that comparison because the Paradigm 120H is no slouch in the bass department, but the Aeris is still better. Legacy states that these speakers are flat, down to 18 hertz plus or minus 2 dB. To be completely blunt, there's absolutely zero need to use a subwoofer with the Aeris. The bass is accurately balanced and neutral, but if you do want more, the Wave Launch gives you the ability to turn up the bass section to give you as much room-shaking bass as you could ever want. To sum up the bass, it's accurate, hard-hitting, clean, and more capable than any speaker that I've ever heard in my room. And with the Wave Launch processor allowing you to customize it, the low end of this speaker has no weaknesses. And with that, it brings us to the sound staging and imaging. I have no doubts that these speakers would blow away even the pickiest of audiophiles when it comes to their imaging and sound staging abilities. As I already discussed in my music listening notes, sounds can be placed pretty much anywhere around the room. It's almost a little bit like sorcery. It's deep, it's precise, and it even has height to it. It's as if I'm at a live concert and I have to kind of look up slightly to see the stage, because every instrument in the songs, like The Man Who Sold the World by Nirvana Live Unplugged, is placed across the soundstage. Every instrument has its place in that horizontal soundstage, and in digital music like Madonna's Vogue, every sound just has its place horizontally, vertically, and within that three-dimensional space. It's really incredible to hear. Alright, so with all this in mind, let's move along to my impressions of these speakers for home theater use. Let's start off with the bass because that's something that truly shines with home theater content. These speakers really do provide such solid bass that I could see some of you using them for home theater without any subwoofers. So for this review specifically, I did some listening of some Atmos demos as well as some movie demos with the subwoofers off and then running the speakers in full range. And with those demos, even though I'm a bass head, these speakers left me impressed. They provided a solid home theater bass presentation that even provided some tactile response in my home theater seats. No, they don't violently shake my room like the two secret TONEWINNER monster subwoofers that I have in for testing right now, but for a tower speaker, I was thoroughly impressed. Honestly, everything that I mentioned in the 2-channel section of this review transfers over to the home theater aspect quite nicely because they are so transparent and clear. Movies sound absolutely phenomenal. The dynamics of these speakers really shine when watching a dynamic scene like the race scene from Ready Player One. The great thing is some of the drivers and technology from the Aeris is also carried over to their center speaker, the Marquee XD, which uses the same 4-inch ribbon tweeter, a 7.5-inch mid-range driver, and the same two 12-inch woofers that are in the Aries, and it is by far the best center speaker that I've ever heard. The clarity and dynamics are just off the charts. Dialogue, even at low volumes, is very clear and easily intelligible. And I only bring that up because it pairs perfectly with the Aeris for movies, and the Aeris is a formidable home theater speaker, so every sound effect and noise is clear and precise. Sounds don't tend to blend together like they can with lesser capable speakers. Everything is separated and transparent, which makes movie content watching a real treat. And that is why I think the Aries is about as close to a perfect speaker that I will ever experience in my space. It is just so capable across the frequency range, all while remaining clean and accurate. It's tough to compete with. Highs are so airy and detailed, and the detail follows through to the mid-range and the low end. Everything about the speaker is just plain clean. There's no real need to pair them with a subwoofer. Even a bass head could be satisfied with the bass, especially with 2-channel listening, given the fact that you can turn it up if you want to using the Wave Launch processor, which provides you with many ways to customize the speaker to your liking. I believe that most, if not all, retailers will come to your house and tune these speakers for you in your space using the Wave Launch processor or the Wavelet processor, which can be purchased with the Aries at an extra cost. The processor is an incredibly capable tool that just allows you not only to change the levels of each speaker, the top end, the low end, to suit your liking. It also has 8 PEQs for each speaker's low end and each speaker's high end. So if you do want to tune the high end or the low end to your preferences, it will allow for that. Of course, the mid-range as well. You can tune these speakers precisely to your room. So if your room struggles with low end a little bit, no problem. If you want more low end, end, no problem. Or maybe you want a richer mid-range, again, no problem. Or maybe you want to trim the treble or increase the treble, again, no problem. The wave launch processor is capable of giving you those PEQs so that you can adjust them to exactly how you want them to sound in your space. And for those of you out there that want to get really technical with their speaker setup, the wave launch provides you with time delay features for each input and output as well. These are just some of the features of the processor. You can get as advanced with the adjustments as you want, or for those of you that want to keep things simple, you can use the custom preset that the speaker designer Bill Duddleston creates for you and not worry about making any adjustments whatsoever. And this is where the value lies with the Aeris speaker, because they've used such capable drivers, then provide a tool like the wave launch processor. You can essentially have the speaker sound exactly how you want it. You are no longer restricted to a speaker that sounds one way. The Aeris can grow with your ever-changing preferences or your ever-changing music choices. That value is hard to beat in the high-end speaker market. You are not only getting a highly capable speaker that uses high-end components for top-tier clarity, detail, and sound reproduction, you can then tune that sound to your desires. And the cherry on top is that you get all of that rolled in a very well-built and beautiful package, because let's face it, the Aeris are very pleasing to look at. And it's one of the reasons that I decided to go with them. I wanted good, clean, detailed, accurate sound, but I wanted it to also look nice. And for me personally, at this point, I don't think that there's any denying that the Aeris are the full package. They cover all the bases and exceed them in many ways. They're just a speaker that's hard to fault in any way, shape, or form. I guess the only fault that you could give them is the fact that they are priced for the high-end market. But in the high-end market, they do offer a lot of value. There are speakers that cost just as much as these speakers that don't go anywhere near as low as these speakers do and provide you that room-shaking bass. There are speakers out there that cost just as much or more that aren't going to give you that detailed mid-range. There are speakers in this price range or more that aren't going to provide you that nice, well-balanced clarity from the top end right down to the low end. So in the high-end space, these speakers truly do offer you a value simply because they give you all of that, a fully capable full-range speaker that's tunable with the wave launch processor to sound however you want it to sound. And that is why I decided to choose the Legacy Aeris over speakers like the KEF Reference series of speakers, simply because it gives you top-tier quality, top-tier components that offer you an accurate neutral sound that can also be tuned right out of the box using the wave launch processor. Of course, you can spend a little bit more and get the wavelet processor if that's what you want, which I believe does simplify things. It makes things a little bit easier to make those adjustments. It's a little bit more of an advanced piece of equipment, but it is a significant increase in cost. So with all of that said, I don't think it's hard for you guys to put it together that I do love these speakers. Like I said, it's kind of the full package, at least for me. I love the looks. I love the sound. They're very capable. They use high-end components that you can also customize using the wave launch processor, which is something that not a lot of other brands are offering. So that is what sold me on them. They're just the full package, and that's kind of the best way to put it. So to me, I believe they're one of the speakers out there that you could call the perfect speaker, simply because if you get tired of the sound, or let's say your sound preferences change, these speakers can grow with you, given the fact that they have that wave launch processor that you can tune them to your liking or tune them to your room. So they're never going to be obsolete for you if you purchase them. They're never obsolete. If you want a different sound, simply tune them for that different sound, because the drivers are capable, they're detailed, they're clean. You're not going to need more detail. You're not going to need more clarity. It's already there. So if you want the change in the sound signature, that is something that you can do with the wave launch. So these speakers are going to grow with you, and that is why I believe they are the perfect speaker. And for your convenience, if you would like to check out any of the Legacy products, I've dropped their links down in the description below. Make sure that you do stay tuned for more videos about the Legacy speakers that I have in my home theater. Consider subscribing, tick the bell icon if you do. Please take just one short second to hit that like button. I always do appreciate it. Remember to enjoy your systems. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.